Something is being lifted off your road, Leo. And it may not feel gentle at first. It can feel like a door closing right when your heart was still reaching for the handle. It can feel like silence where you were used to hearing a voice, like an empty space where you kept trying to place someone who never truly fit. But sometimes God doesn't remove someone to punish you. God removes them to protect what's still sacred in you, to keep your spirit from shrinking itself, just to keep a connection alive. Because you, Leo, love with your whole presence. When you care, you don't do it halfway. You don't sort of show up. You bring warmth. You bring loyalty. You bring the kind of devotion that makes people feel chosen. And that's beautiful. But it also means you can stay too long in places where you're being tolerated instead of cherished, explained away instead of understood, used for your light instead of loved for your soul. You can keep giving the sun to someone who keeps living like a cave. If this message finds you at the exact moment someone is fading, leaving, drifting, disappearing, or suddenly becoming hard to reach, take it as confirmation. And if you want more messages that meet you like this, right on time, subscribe to Leo Zodiac and stay close. Not because you need a prediction, but because you deserve reminders that your heart is not too much. It's holy when it's in the right hands. There's a specific kind of pain that happens when God removes someone from your path. It's the pain of unanswered questions. Not always because you did something wrong, but because you wanted it to make sense. You wanted a clean ending, a conversation that wraps everything up neatly. You wanted to know what it meant. And when you don't get that, your mind keeps reopening the story like a book you can't stop rereading, hoping a new line appears. But the truth is, some endings don't come with explanations. They come with protection. They come with mercy disguised as absence. For Leo, loss often feels personal, even when it isn't. You can interpret distance as rejection. You can interpret someone leaving as a verdict on your worth. But God doesn't measure you by who stayed. God measures you by who you are becoming. And sometimes the very people you keep trying to keep are the people blocking the version of you that's ready to rise. Think about the way God works in nature, the way a tree is pruned, the way certain branches are cut, not because the tree is failing, but because it is meant to grow stronger. The cutting looks violent to anyone who doesn't understand the season. But the tree knows something the onlooker doesn't. What's being removed is making room for new fruit. That's what this is, Leo. A pruning. A sacred interruption. A divine no that is actually a deeper yes to your future. And you might say, but I loved them. And God says, I know. You might say, but I saw potential. And God says, I know. You might say, but they felt familiar. And God says, I know. Because familiarity is not the same as alignment. Familiarity is not the same as safety. Familiarity is not the same as destiny. Sometimes what feels like home is just what your nervous system got used to surviving. Leo, there's a difference between someone being a lesson and someone being a legacy. A lesson teaches you how to protect your heart. A legacy supports your heart while you're learning how to protect it. And when God removes someone, it's often because you were trying to turn a lesson into a legacy. You were trying to build a forever with someone who only had the capacity for until it gets hard. And you've noticed it, haven't you? The uneven energy. The way you were always the one reaching. The way you were always the one initiating the warmth, the honesty, the repair. The way your love became a performance you had to keep proving. Like if you just loved harder, shined brighter, tried longer, they would finally choose you the way you deserved. But God is not asking you to audition for love. God is guiding you toward love that recognizes you without forcing you to beg for the basics. Sometimes God removes people because they were assigned to your past, not your future. And you can feel that in your body before you admit it with your mouth. Your chest gets heavy after you talk to them. You feel smaller after you explain yourself. You start second-guessing your intuition. Your confidence dims. You begin carrying guilt that doesn't belong to you. You start apologizing for having needs. That's not love, Leo. That's erosion. And the hardest part is this: God will often remove the person you wanted to reveal the person you are. Because as long as you were wrapped up in saving that connection, you weren't fully listening to what your soul was trying to tell you. You weren't fully hearing the quiet voice underneath your pride, your loyalty, your hope. That voice that kept whispering, "This is costing you too much." Leo, your heart is built for devotion, but your soul is built for dignity. There are removals that happen loudly, fights, betrayals, dramatic exits. But there are also removals that happen quietly. A slow draining, a gradual absence, a vibe shift you can't ignore, a sudden lack of effort, a delay in responses, a coldness where there used to be warmth. And you might be trying to fix it, but what if you're not meant to fix it? What if you're meant to finally release it? Because God's protection is not always a shield that blocks the arrow. Sometimes it's a hand that gently turns your face away before you see what would have broken you. Sometimes it's a closed door so you don't walk into a room where your spirit would be disrespected. Sometimes it's distance, because closeness would have cost you your peace. And yes, it hurts. It hurts because Leo doesn't just lose people. You lose the future you imagined with them. You lose the version of the story you kept hoping would finally begin. You lose the maybe. You lose the fantasy that your love could awaken what they refuse to heal. And grieving that is real. Grieving that is valid. You don't have to pretend it didn't matter just because it ended. But hear this clearly. God is not removing someone to make you empty. God is removing them to make you available. Available for aligned love. Available for real support. Available for friendships that don't compete with you. Available for partnerships that don't punish you for shining. Available for a life that doesn't require you to abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable. If you've been feeling like your light has been attracting moths instead of matches, this is your recalibration. Because Leo, you are not meant to be the sun for people who only show up to take warmth and then disappear when it's time to give. There's also something else happening when God removes someone from your path. You start remembering yourself. At first it feels like loneliness, but then, slowly, it becomes space. And space becomes clarity. And clarity becomes power. You start hearing your own thoughts again. You start wanting things again. You start dreaming without shrinking the dream to fit someone else's limitations. You start coming home to the parts of you that were waiting patiently in the background while you kept prioritizing someone who couldn't hold you. And somewhere in the middle of all this, you're going to catch yourself smiling again. Not because you moved on in some cold, quick way. Leo doesn't do cold when it comes to the heart, but because you can breathe again. Your chest isn't tight from carrying the emotional labor of two people. Your mind isn't constantly scanning for signs of rejection. You aren't over-explaining your intentions to someone committed to misunderstanding you. If this is resonating, take a second to like this video, not for the algorithm alone, but as a quiet agreement with your own healing. As a small spiritual yes to the version of you that's learning to let God lead instead of clinging to what's already slipping away. Because the truth is, Leo, you are holding on to someone who is holding you back from a higher standard, from a deeper love, from a truer life. And God is not cruel for removing them. God is kind. This is the part most people don't talk about. Sometimes God removes someone because they were quietly poisoning your self-image. Not with obvious cruelty, but with subtle denial, with inconsistency, with mixed signals, with admiration one day and distance the next, with affection that felt conditional, with support that turned into competition, with love that had you constantly wondering where you stood. And Leo, you don't belong in uncertainty. Your spirit is royal. You are meant to stand in love that is clear, devoted, and proud of you. You are meant to be chosen out loud. You are meant to be celebrated, not managed. You are meant to be with people who don't fear your greatness, people who honor it. So if someone is being removed, consider the possibility that God is protecting you from what you were about to normalize, from what you were about to accept as just how love is, from the slow lowering of your standards just to keep a bond intact. Because if you keep calling it love while you're constantly abandoned emotionally, your soul starts forgetting what real love feels like. God is restoring your memory. And here's something powerful. When God removes someone from your path, it's not only about them. It's also about what you're being invited to release inside yourself. The need to prove your worth. The need to be chosen by someone unavailable. The habit of overgiving to earn security. The tendency to confuse intensity with intimacy. The urge to stay loyal to potential instead of reality. This is not a message of blame, Leo. This is a message of elevation. Because you're not being punished, you're being refined. And if you want to make this moment personal, I want you to anchor it, not just in your mind, but in your story. In the comments, share your date of birth and your zodiac sign. Not like a random detail, like a signature. Like you're saying, this is me. This is my season. This is my turning point. And when you do, read it back to yourself like a vow. I will not beg for what God already designed to meet me. Now listen closely. What's leaving is not taking your blessing with it. What's leaving was never the blessing. The blessing is what's being protected. The blessing is what remains. The blessing is what begins once you stop trying to resurrect what God has already released. There will be moments when you miss them, not because they were right, but because they were familiar. You will miss the routine, the idea, the comfort of having someone, and in those moments, your heart might try to bargain. Maybe I should reach out. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I can fix it. And if you're honest, sometimes it's not even love pulling you back. It's fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear that you won't find something better. But Leo, that fear is not prophecy. You don't have to chase what God is removing. You don't have to prove yourself to someone who can't see you. You don't have to keep standing outside a closed door just because you remember what it felt like when it was open. God is not only closing the door, God is escorting you somewhere else. And I know you might be asking, where? And the answer is, to yourself first, to your own strength, to your own joy, to your own standards, to your own voice. Because you can't build a stable future on a foundation of emotional confusion. You can't be your full self around someone who only loves the parts of you that serve them. You can't keep offering your heart like a gift to someone who keeps treating it like a convenience. Leo, you are not an option. You are not a placeholder. You are not a lesson someone gets to learn at your expense. You are a soul with purpose. So let the removal happen. Let the distance do its sacred work. Let the silence reveal what words kept hiding. Let the absence speak the truth you kept trying not to hear. Because sometimes God removes someone and you finally realize you weren't losing love. You were losing a weight. And in that release, you will rise. You will start attracting different energy. People who don't flinch when you express emotion. People who don't punish you for needing reassurance. People who don't call your standards too much because they're actually capable of meeting them. People who don't drain you and then call it connection. People who choose you with consistency, not just chemistry. And you'll look back one day and realize the truth. God saved you from what you would have kept tolerating. So if someone is being removed right now, take a breath and stop fighting the wind. Stop interpreting the pruning as rejection. Stop calling the protection a loss. This is alignment. This is grace. This is God saying, not that one, not that energy, not that future. And if you've stayed with me to the end, I want you to do two things. First, like this video, as a simple act of faith in your next chapter. Second, subscribe to Leo Zodiac, because this is not the only message meant to find you. More clarity is coming. More healing is coming. More confirmation is coming. And Leo, remember, when God removes someone from your path, it's not because you weren't enough. It's because you were too valuable to keep walking toward what would have dimmed you. Your light is protected. Your heart is guided. Your future is guarded. And what's meant for you will never require you to abandon yourself to keep it.